Hello there and welcome. Do you know, I've had any number of these hourglasses in my life, and I use them to put an idea across. I want you to think for a moment. Let the sand in the top of the glass represent your future. Let the sand in the bottom of the glass represent your past. Now, this is gone. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But you know the strange thing? You don't know how much sand's in the top of your glass. The only thing we can do anything with is what's right here, right now. And you know something? It never stops moving. That's the way life goes. Too often, when the sand's almost all gone, people wish they had done something different. You don't know how much time you have left. So far as we know, we get one bite at the apple. This is it. Don't let the sand pass without doing something great. You're hardwired to do something great. Do it.
The sand is always falling, and most people let it slip through by default. You see, the average person never choose their life. They inherit it, react to it, survive it. But what if you chose to live by design? What if this moment, right here, right now, was your turning point? Because transformation doesn't just happen. It's chosen. It's sparked from within. Through one idea, one question, one teacher who helps you to see that limits live only in the mind. The real question is, what will you do with the time that you have left? When the last grain falls, what mark will you leave behind? Bob Proctor lit the path for millions, illuminating a timeless formula for building a life of intention, ignited by purpose, unbound by circumstance. We invite you to now walk with us through the extraordinary life of Bob Proctor and discover the secrets behind the man you may think you already know. Through his past, we'll reveal the blueprint to your future, and it starts right now.
Joining us now is Bob Proctor, New York Times best-selling author, lecturer, and counselor. He's been described as preaching the gospel of positive thinking and maximizing human potential.
Can you change everything by changing your mind? It's called The Secret.
So excited for you to meet our next guest because I believe they can help you completely change your life. Please welcome Bob Proctor.
Bob Proctor is one of the greatest teachers and speakers in the field of success and personal development in history.
Bob, good to see you again.
Robin's always a pleasure.
Bob Proctor, consultant to Fortune 500 companies, best-selling author, host of his own radio and television show, Self-Made Millionaire, the man who's going to reveal the hidden secrets that could make you a millionaire too.
Tonight on Nightline, phenomenon that is the nation's top-selling advice book.
You know, it's always been around. The law of attraction's always working.
Our universe operates by law.
It's how everything happened in my life.
The principles that he teaches, they work if you work them.
What kind of a house do you want to live in? What kind of a business do you want to have? What do you really want?
Please welcome to the stage the #1 coach, the #1 mentor, a living legend, Mr. Bob Proctor.
Get on your feet for Mr. Bob Proctor.
I consider Bob Proctor the #1 motivational speaker on the planet. Yes, indeed. Hello, this is Les Brown. I had the great fortune of crossing the paths with Bob Proctor many years ago, not only just meeting him, but being one of his students. I've been watching him for years. I loved his heart, his energy, his conviction, and his commitment to transform people's lives. He became one of my great teachers and a dear friend. We shared many a stage together, and I was blessed with frequent opportunities to witness the greatness of this man up close. It is my honor to be here with you as we share Bob's incredible untold story. Listen closely, for within his story, you'll find your story. His energy was unmistakable, but he was more than just an electrifying presence on stage. Bob had a deep, unwavering desire for people to get it. He didn't speak to impress. No. He spoke to awaken. He wanted every person in the audience to not just hear the message, but to feel it, absorb it, and use it to transform their lives. My life isn't what's interesting, Bob would say. It's the material. Yet through his voice, the material came alive and spoke straight to the soul. Bob challenged people to think, to change, to rise, and in doing so, lit up the path to abundance for those willing to walk in it. I remember one time I was asking him some questions about how I can take my life to the next level, and I was just hesitant in terms of the investment it would take. And he said, you know what? You need to ask, what is your ignorance costing you? I said, huh? Oh my God. You know, I came up at a time to say, what you don't know will hurt you. Well, he taught me what you don't know can keep you broke. Bob ignited something in me, a hunger, a fire. He ignited hope and inspired everyone he came in contact with. His words lit up rooms. His presence energized and transformed people's lives.
If you use this information that he taught, if you study it, if you follow what he did, if you implement it just as he did, you will grow just as he did.
There's so many stories, and when he passed, I mean, it was so heartwarming to hear all the people talk about his generosity and how he had impacted their lives in that way. I believe that that's what success was to him, being able to do more, for more, and help more people.
He just wanted us to be the best at what we wanted to be.
He changed the trajectory of my life completely.
I mean, he was just always challenging you to live a better life, to step out and bet on yourself.
He wanted everyone to have the chance to improve their lives the way he had.
He wanted for you what you wanted for you.
These were things that would really change their lives if what Bob said was true, and every bit of it was.
Bob leans back and he takes a deep breath and he says, so what's the biggest problem you're facing right now? All of a sudden we have about $1.6 million that we have to come up with that isn't in that ordinary budget. So how I'm going to generate an extra $1.6 million, I have no idea how that's going to happen. And he looked at me and he says, Mary, $1.6 million? Is that all? Nobody I knew was thinking $1.6 million is that all? I just thought in that moment, I need to sit at this man's feet and discover how he holds things such that $1.6 million is not a big deal. And so he said, I'll help you with that.
I think one of the reasons Bob Proctor resonated with people of all walks of life all around the world is because he made you believe in yourself.
And people are hungrier every day more and more for this, because people are floundering. People are tired of their jobs. People are tired of what they're doing. They don't know what to do because it costs so much to live. They're afraid to take chances anymore.
You're afraid because you're stepping into an area that you've never stepped into before, and the only way to overcome the fear is to face it. Fear knocked on the door, faith opened it, lo, there was no one there.
You know, people see Bob on The Secret and they think he had it made. He did not. He did not. He worked for everything he got.
I think everyone thinks that the struggles that they have, Bob Proctor would never have things like that happen to him. Well, certainly he did.
Everything that's happened in your life, everything that's happened in my life has been absolutely essential to make us the person we are, to prepare us to do whatever we're going to do. And we've got to try and understand that.
He never allowed present circumstances to hold him back from doing anything, stopping him from dreaming even bigger.
He understood that most people look to circumstances and conditions for permission to live a life they love. And he knew that there was a power in all of us that was greater than those circumstances, no matter how daunting they were.
That was the biggest thing that he taught people, that you have a choice, and your circumstances have nothing to do with it.
He never really focused on his challenges. He always focused on the goal.
And I think the only way we can carry on his legacy so that he can keep helping people is to give a little bit of that insight that he couldn't.
What if you had that opportunity to walk alongside of Bob Proctor in this incredible 60-year journey, and you could see how he handled these seemingly insurmountable problems? Wow, that would be valuable.
Bob was born in Owen Sound, Ontario, back in 1934, and it was a small town. And Bob used to joke that there's no more people there than there were back in 1934. It was a pretty simple life. Bob talked about how they didn't have a lot of money growing up, that they would put cardboard in their shoes if they got holes in them just to make them last a little bit longer. So times were definitely tough.
Now, keep in mind, I was born during the Depression in 1934, right in the heart of the Depression. When I'm 5, 6 years old, just started school, the whole world went to war. Fathers are all gone. Mother's working in war plant. Grandmother's trying to raise 3 of us. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of attention given to anybody. Lack and limitation was sort of the order of the day for everybody.
Bob's challenges began at a young age when the Proctor family's life was turned upside down by World War II. When Bob's father and 4 brothers enlisted and his mother took all of the responsibilities to keep the home fires burning.
She was quite fierce and brave to take on that sort of responsibility.
It's great to be here with my family and all my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren.
Look into the camera, Mother.
Not very many people are privileged at 81 to be able to do that. So I'm going to enjoy this very much.
Oh, we're glad to have you here, Mother.
We were just so blessed with Marguerite, our mom.
When we were kids, it'd probably be around 1943. It was particularly bad winter. I mean, a lot of snow, and it was cold.
There was a family that lived a couple of streets over.
Everybody heated their house with coal in a furnace, and they didn't have any coal. And I told my mother about it. She went away and she got a $20 bill, and she had it all folded up. She said, I want you to go to the store and get 2 10s for this. And I brought back the 2 10s. She gave me one. You take it to that boy's mother and let her get a ton of coal. You get a ton of coal for $10. And she didn't even know them. So it really impressed me.
I think that's what motivated Bob to do better for himself, but to also do better for other people.
Young Bob was a shy guy. His desire to belong led him to mixing with the wrong crowd and pushing boundaries and getting into trouble.
I used to do things I didn't like to do, I didn't want to do. I knew they were wrong, and I'd do them anyway. When I was a little boy, my mother would say, why did you do it? And I'd say, I don't know. She'd say, you're no different, and I'd say, yeah, I know. She said, you're going to do it, never do it again. And I'd go right back out and do it again. I didn't understand why I was doing it. And no one understood that either. And no one was able to show me. And I continued to do those things until I was 26, until I started to get into the study of this, and I found out I was literally in a prison of my own making. I was holding an image of myself that wasn't true.
Ultimately, at 16, Bob, in an act of teenage restlessness, defiance, and a naive courage, Bob forged his mother's signature and enlisted in the Navy.
Everybody thought it would be good for him. He was doing something good for his country, and Mom feeling so good that he would be disciplined there. She thought that would be really good. And she said, he's so smart. I know he's going to learn something there.
From what I understand, it didn't make any difference. Dad talked about the Navy imposing discipline on him, and he resisted it. In his mind, I think it was just punishment, and because he resisted the discipline, he was forever in trouble.
He never did well in the Navy, even though he was in there for 5 years.
We never earned much money in the Navy in those days, but I lost almost all I earned in fines. I was forever getting fined, getting locked up. I wouldn't do what they told me, and I told them what I thought of them. That doesn't go over very big in the service. Commanding officers don't like that.
He left the Navy after a number of years at the same rate that he joined the Navy, and it was probably because of his resistance to discipline. Ironically, I think the thing that made Dad so successful was his ability to impose discipline on himself.
When he came out of the Navy, he fell in with a similar group of unmotivated individuals, and they were, I guess, drinking a lot and smoking a lot, and he jumped from one job to another. He had a job as a bartender. He wanted to be a butcher at one time. He did some typesetting for a printing house. He did all sorts of odd jobs, and some of them he got fired from, some of them he just quit.
I had a couple of jobs that lasted for an hour, and I was fired. That's not an easy thing to do.
Deep down, he felt low self-esteem, amplified by his lack of education and skills. And at the time, that kept him from chasing the opportunities that could have really turned his life around. All he wanted was some financial breathing room. But at the time, believe it or not, he thought the answer was out of his hands and up to someone else.
And so it was rather a dysfunctional life until he accepted some of the responsibility and got on the fire department.
Wasn't easy getting on a fire department.
They probably had 2,000 or 3,000 applications. You had to weigh 160 pounds. I weighed 135 pounds. You had to have high school education. I had 2 months high school education. The Magistrate Lynn, lived 2 doors up from my mother. I didn't even know this man. And I thought, I wonder. And I saw the ad in the paper, and I went and asked him. I was wondering if there was anything he could do to help me. I think he was flattered that I asked him. He got on the phone, and I thought I was on the fire department.
But there was a different fire beginning to burn inside Bob that was just getting kindled.
Even though he was on the fire department, he was still drinking a lot. His life wasn't pleasant at all. He had a chance meeting with one of his relatives, and the guy, for some reason, had a wad of cash that Bob saw, and Bob said, I want that. He said, well, you can have it. You just have to live differently. He said, but first of all, you have to clean up your act. And he's the one who, I understand, introduced Bob to Ray Stanford.
Meeting Ray Stanford was a pivotal moment in Bob's life, in his trajectory. Ray believed in him in a way Bob did not yet believe in himself.
I think Ray saw something in everybody. I think if he liked you, he would help you. So he said, why don't you change the results you're getting? Well, I didn't know I could. Like, I never even thought of changing results. The idea of results and changing results, happiness, health, well, that never entered my mind. But he said, listen, he said, I'm happy, healthy, wealthy. You're unhappy, sick, and broke. He's my way works, yours done. Why don't you do exactly what I tell you? Now, I had never done what anybody told me. I was 26. I just would not follow direction. I hated discipline. And for some strange reason, I decided I would do what this man told me.
Because you only had one problem in the world, and you're it. You don't have another one.
Ray Stanford one time told me I'm the only problem I'll ever have, and I'm the only solution. We have to start following right rules, even if we're the only one doing it. And when we follow those rules, we're going to start to win.
I've been reading this book every day since the day he gave it to me. That was in October 1961. And he said, if you follow what's in this book, is you can have anything you want. Now, I mean, I couldn't believe that, but, you know, he sort of had me, he said, my way is working, yours isn't. He said, do exactly what I tell you. Find out I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about. I said, I don't lie and I do know what I'm talking about. It changed everything.
There probably is not a day that went by where Dad did not speak the title Think and Grow Rich. It was his roadmap to a better life.
He began to understand through his studies that the security he was seeking would not come until he acknowledged and took responsibility for who and what he truly wanted to be. So he shifted his mindset, and as the truth came into focus, everything began to change.
If we want to change our outside world, change the results we're getting, reach the goals that we really want, we're going to have to do an inside job, because it's all done inside. It's not done outside. What you see happening outside is nothing but a mirror reflection of what's going on within.
Bob continued to work hard to improve himself, even when he felt self-doubt. Bob trusted the process and began to believe he could get the results he wanted.
When he quit drinking, he started to develop an entrepreneurship. He used to make flower boxes they used to sell to apartment buildings that he could put on the balcony. He had a lot of ideas of how to make money.
When an idea came to him through Ray Stanford that maybe his life could be really way more prosperous, healthy, happy than he'd ever known, and he gave him a goal card.
He had set a goal to have $25,000 in his possession.
And he told Bob to write down this goal, because Bob said in his story he owed everybody he knew money.
When I first read that book, I was so broke, I owed everybody money. I mean everybody. I owed $6,000, not in one place, all over the place. This is in 1961. That was a lot of money. I was earning $4,000 a year. If I had taken every cent I earned for 18 months, I would have just broken even. I had enough to live on. So you see, it was an impossible situation. And the guy that gave me this, he got me locked into earning money. Up until then, all I thought about was getting out of debt. That's all I thought about, was get out of debt. If your goal is to get out of debt, you'll probably stay in debt forever because you attract whatever you think about. So at any rate, the guy said there was good money cleaning floors. I said, I'm not proud, I'll clean floors. But he said, you don't want to do it for somebody else, you want to do it for yourself. Work for yourself. And I said, I know where you can pick up a used floor machine and some buckets and mops. And that's all you need, and you can be in business. It was going to cost me $982. I thought, this is impossible. The guy that gave me the book, he said, listen, somebody has $1,000 that they want to lend you. You got to find out who that person is. So I went looking. I went to banks, I went to everybody. Nobody lent me any money. I finally met a guy. I said, what do you want it for, son? So I started telling him I was going to build a big cleaning business. And I was very enthused about it. He said, you know something? I believe you. I'm going to lend you $1,000. I said, really? So are you telling me the truth? And I was in business.
He was willing to stand as his own man, to stand as a person who was willing to learn what it would take.
And then he met a fellow by the name of Bob Mowat, who was in the cleaning business, and Bob started buying cleaning contracts from him.
So I just remember him saying, I can go and clean and make this much money. I might clean Wednesday and Saturday at a place. And every time he got an account to clean, he'd come and tell us because he was so excited and how much he was making.
So he cleaned, and in doing so, revealed a path to the next level in his journey.
When I quit the fire department, everybody thought I'd really out of my mind. I was the second person since 1934 to quit the fire department. No one quit that job and they couldn't fire you. Everybody thought I was quitting to go and clean offices, but I was quitting to go and build a company. I didn't have any formal education, I didn't have any business experience, so everybody thought, well, what makes you think you can build a company? Well, I don't know what it made me think it, but I could think it, you see? I went from earning $4,000 a year to $14,500 a month in a year. It was an unreal change. You talk about quantum leaps. It just kept growing. Like the book was telling me, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. In other words, if you can get the picture, then you can do it.
Bob realized his own success depended on how he visualized himself, and he became determined to succeed through the focused work of learning how to change his mindset, his self-image, and taking action to be who he wanted to become.
I was cleaning offices, and I thought the answer was get another office to clean. The problem was, I got to a point where I couldn't clean them all. But I was talking to Ray Stanford, and he was working totally different than me. The guy never worked hard. I never saw him working. I was killing myself. And I literally passed out on the street. I literally passed out. I was exhausted. And the thing come to my head, if you can't clean all of them, don't clean any of them. Get somebody else doing it.
He started buying more and more contracts, and he started telling people about this and getting them involved in earning income through this vehicle. I understand that at some point, Bob Mowat decided that he was going to make Bob a partner because he just couldn't keep up with the pace of what Bob was doing.
Bob Mowat was not a make-it-happen type of leader, but what he offered Bob Proctor was something just as valuable, a system. And Bob saw it not just as a tool to help himself, but as a path he could expand to help others too. And that's exactly what he set out to do.
The way to success was by leveraging his time. Rather than cleaning floors, he got the concept of if he had more people cleaning floors, he could help them earn more money and benefit from them working and earning more money. And that's when the cleaning business really took off.
You know, in less than 5 years, I was earning over $1 million a year, and I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England. If you had asked me what I was doing, I'd say I clean offices. When I was really, other people were cleaning offices. See, the people that earn a lot of money don't work. You know what he says in here? He said, if you are one of those people who believe that hard work and honesty alone will bring riches, perish the thought, it is not true. He said, riches, when they come in huge quantities, it's never the result of hard work. Riches come, if it comes at all, in response to definite demands based upon the application of definite principles and not by chance or luck. Definite demands, I demanded it. That's where you got to go. You got to demand it of yourself, not of somebody else, of yourself. Quit screwing around.
He succeeded in clearing the path to a better life. He had become the boss, and in doing so, he was beginning to become a true leader.
It was just amazing because he attracted a lot of people into this startup business who left very, very good jobs to go into a business that was shaky at best. There wasn't any great stability, but he projected such an image of what he was going to do with this business that attracted everybody.
You see, cleaning those offices was incidental. I wasn't talking to the cleaners about cleaning offices. I would talk to the cleaners about what they wanted. And if somebody said they had difficulty making their mortgage, I said, I'll buy your house. I'll pay for your mortgage. You give me an hour a night and I'll pay for your mortgage. So you see, cleaning had nothing real to do with what I was doing. And I started to realize that.
Everybody that was connected to that business went on to be very, very successful. He just literally changed everybody.
See, I was earning over $1 million and I didn't know why. I'd been told you had to be smart. I knew I wasn't very smart. I didn't tell anybody I didn't think I was very smart because I didn't want them to find out that I wasn't very smart. But the results I was getting would indicate I was really smart according to what we call smart.
Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich, when the riches come, they come fast and furious. And that happened to Dad at that point. Like, he just had a wealth of income flowing in, and it shocked him.
So then I started to say, well, how did they change so dramatically? I mean, it was like a metamorphosis had taken place. I thought, how did I change? I couldn't figure out how I changed. So I made up my mind I was going to figure it out.
Something deep inside Bob awakened. He realized the real transformation hadn't been external. It had happened within. That realization was a revelation. It shifted how he saw himself, his future, and what was truly possible for him and for others. From that moment on, life would never look the same.
Take that first step and other steps will be shown. And that's exactly what happened with Bob. He took that first step and then he got the cleaning business. Then he got a partnership with the gentleman who had owned the cleaning business, and then he owned it. And the whole time, his focus was taking people with him. What he wanted for himself, he wanted for everybody else. He wanted them to experience what he was experiencing by reading Think and Grow Rich. He wanted them to benefit from the cleaning business. He wanted them to really live better like he wanted to live better. He learned that people have to want to help themselves. He can't make them help themselves, but he wanted to give them the tools and the opportunity to change, and he helped a lot of lives.
I think his desire was like my mom. I want a better life, and I want other people that are connected to me to have a better life. And I know that if I help them, I'll help me. I always say that my mother gave us our work ethic, and my brother showed us how to use it.
It was desire that got him to this point, and somewhere in the heart of his heart, Bob felt that he was meant for more, and that created a discipline that led him to take action and eventually achieve a level of greatness that he previously never imagined for himself.
And his discipline was 100% because he had discipline in his thinking. He never, ever thought he was going to lose.
Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. A lot of people fall short in that area.
Bob did not fall short. He was determined and disciplined to get what he desired. He had the blueprint and the framework to build his dreams.
Bob truly believes that anyone could have what they really wanted. That's why he always said, if you can tell me what you want, I can show you how to get it. He knew how to get it, no matter what it was. The only question, the only prerequisite was, do you really want it?
You know, most people will embrace the success one time and ride that to the end of their life. And he could have ridden the wave of the cleaning company and lived a very wealthy, happy life in the cleaning company, but that wasn't where his heart was. His heart was really in understanding the information he read and how he applied it.
He kept reading, he kept studying. He found more mentors and like-minded allies. He engineered a whole new environment conducive to his unfoldment. The path forward was now illuminated, and he began building a blueprint for a new life.
He built that first business, his cleaning business, and he was doing very, very well financially. But this longing and this hunger for truth was so active in him that he sold those businesses.
Mr. Nightingale, I'd like to tell you about the strangest secret in the world.
Bob was inspired to learn this secret.
Earl Nightingale was the most listened to man in the history of the broadcasting industry.
Bob was listening to Earl Nightingale for a long time, listening to the records, loved his voice. He loved listening to him, but he loved the information even more.
I always say if God had a voice, man, did that guy have a set of pipes. I got a hold of a record where Earl Nightingale condensed and narrated that book. So you take Earl's voice, his understanding, and pack it in to the words that are in here. My God, it would just, it would drive me crazy. I would just listen. I couldn't stop listening to it.
I remember vividly driving in the car with him when he would hold a portable record player and he'd be listening to the magic word or the strangest secret, and he would listen to it over and over.
I was forever playing these records.
Hello, this is Earl Nightingale, and this recording, The Magic Word, is the first of 12 you will receive in this series titled How You Can Lead the Field in the Modern World.
I listened to Earl Nightingale every day, many times a day. We were all very involved in these records. And although it was an office cleaning company, what it really was a personal development company, because these little 7-inch discs, they dominated my life. And if you come to work in the company that I was part of, they would dominate your life.
Discovering Earl Nightingale was a powerful shift forward in Bob's journey. Earl's material brought a fresh, practical application to ideas Bob had already begun to study. He knew it was real, and it resonated on a level that made Bob want to align with that message and with the man delivering it.
He used to tell his cleaners that he would love to speak with him.
One of the fellows that worked in the company said to him, well, if you really wanted to meet him, why don't you phone him and go and meet him? And I think up to that point, Bob never really thought how easy it would be.
Bob realized that he might actually be able to sit face-to-face with one of his greatest mentors.
And with that, Bob did, and he had to leave a message. A little while later, the phone rang, and Bob picked it up, and it was Earl Nightingale. And Bob said he nearly passed out when he heard Earl on the other end of the phone. He said it was the same voice he'd listened to on the records, and he was just so excited. And he wanted to come see Earl.
And Earl said, well, I'm a very busy guy, but if you come down here and I have the time, I'll see you. He didn't have an appointment. So just on the basis of that, Bob flew down to Chicago. Earl obviously had the time and went in and talked to him.
There's the two of them, Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. They literally started the industry that I'm a part of.
So Bob showed up, and he did get time with Earl, and he really wanted to work with Earl. He wanted to work in the office, and he said it doesn't really work that way. And I understand that Bob ultimately bought a distributorship from the Nightingale Conant Corporation, and he came back to Toronto, and he really put all of his time into promoting that business. Ultimately, he became one of the top distributors. They called him back to Chicago to talk to him to find out what he was doing. He said, I'm just following what the records say to do.
As Bob's new venture grew, so did his desire to work closer with Earl Nightingale, and he found himself facing a pivotal decision.
I finally realized I was being controlled by my company. I wasn't controlling the company. The cleaning business was controlling me, because what I really wanted to do, I wasn't permitting myself to do. I wanted to become partners with them. For me to be with Earl and Lloyd, I had to leave the company that I had literally built. And I naturally thought it was a big risk. But I did move into it, and I became his vice president of sales.
He picked us all up, the whole family, and we moved to Chicago. That's when he started to work with Earl.
I was earning probably $1 million a year more. And I took a job for $18,000 a year at the Nightingale Conant Corporation. I was prepared to pay them to let me work there.
Bob took a severe pay cut in order to work with Earl, but he had learned from Napoleon Hill the true benefit of associations with people who can teach you valuable life lessons cannot be measured in money. The right people shape your thinking, your habits, and your future. Earl was the right person to help shape Bob's future.
So he completely dialed down his income to be able to invest in the learning. And so Bob understood the power of investing in awareness, because all of what we call our own is an output of the awareness we have right now. And the only way we have better results, more reach, more difference making, whatever it is that matters to you, more love, more health, it all is contingent on us being a match for that vibrationally. So you can have an idea, But if I'm not a match for that, so the blueprint is the image, the vision that we have.
He said it was one of the best educations he had going there, even though he had a significant salary cut to work there. And he said he would have worked there for free because of the education.
And that was like a young priest going to work with the Vatican. I had listened to this guy for so long. I mean, just to get an appointment with him was really a big deal. And here I got working with him. I became his vice president of sales. I had an office right beside his.
Now, to make that move, though, it was an enormous move. Some of you are taking a look at a big move. And what you're doing is you're looking at an enormous risk. You've got to take it. Here's what you've got to realize. You are only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. If you take your imagination and really build it, it'll grow.
Bob had no poverty of imagination or weakness of attention. In fact, a new blueprint of what his future could be expanded and unfolded in his mind as he worked to become the architect of his own success.
He said the company was small enough that he got to move around in the company. He got to work in different departments, putting stuff together. And he said he really got a perspective of the whole industry. And so you look at all the pieces, the things that he did that led him from, one path to another, but all building his confidence, all building his awareness, all building his knowledge of that particular industry of speaking. He worked with a lot of different speakers because they had big conferences where they brought all the top speakers at the time in because Nightingale Conant carried their products.
And I not only got to work with Earl, but I got to work with Lloyd Conant, his partner. It was the Nightingale Conant Corporation. I spent 5 years there. I got an education there that you couldn't buy.
And Bob, he said to Earl, look at, everybody's buying these tapes, they're buying these books, but they're not putting it into practice. What we've got to do is we've got to get to a seminar and teach them how to apply this material.
And I think he reflected back on his own life and realized that if he'd just been given a book without any instruction from Ray Stanford or without any help or mentoring from Ray Stanford, he probably wouldn't have changed at all. And so he realized that he wanted to go out and provide that support.
Earl would have nothing to do with this. He said, we're never going to go into the seminar business.
And that's when Bob made a decision to go out on his own.
When I sat down in a den on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois, and I wrote on a piece of paper, I will build a company that operates all over the world. I had no idea how that was going to happen. I only knew it was going to happen. And that's the way it works.
That's the second transformation Dad had. He applied Think and Grow Rich to changing his life, and he wanted to share that with the world. So he started again, from scratch. It wasn't that he did it as a division of Earl Nightingale. He went out and one-man show started his seminar business. That was a tough time. Money wasn't flowing in.
And it was not easy. Personal development was not what it was today. He was out doing whatever was required. He knew that what he had to teach was valuable.
Bob's passion was ignited and his purpose burned brightly inside of him, fueling him forward.
He decided that this material needed to be taught. So he and Earl Nightingale's son, David Nightingale, rented a theater.
They decided to do a seminar, to invite a bunch of people to do like a preview and have people come and hear what he was going to teach. And they obviously hoped to get a lot of clientele from that.
And they sent out thousands of flyers, snail mail. There wasn't any internet back then. They got to the evening of the event, and Bob looked out. There were 6 people in the audience, and they weren't even sitting together. And when you imagine a theater and 6 people in there, that would have deterred some people.
Can you imagine? If you were standing in Bob's shoes, what would you have done?
I mean, they would have probably gone out and said, I'm really sorry, but we're just going to cancel tonight. We'll give you your money back and, call it a day. Not Bob. He went out there and performed as if there were 2,000 people in that audience. And he said that was a real character builder for him.
The moment you decide that quitting is off the table is the moment your true journey begins.
He was always so positive. Like if something didn't work out, well, we'll just try it again the next time.
There was always a calm confidence whenever anything terrible would happen, or it seemed terrible to me at times, but things that would happen, he would just sort of sit back, get calm, and say, okay, now this is what we need to do. And he would calculate what the first step needed to be toward moving away from that. And he was a master at that.
We used to contact corporations. We finally had somebody at IBM, and they sent one of their representatives out to our seminar. Not one person showed up, except the guy from IBM. I remember it so clearly because we were sitting there embarrassed for Bob, how he could get up and do this program for one person. I think the fact that he did it impressed the guy from IBM more than the material. After that, we started working with IBM.
Prudential Insurance and State Farm and just all the different insurance companies and real estate companies that he spoke to. And it was all about inspiring the salespeople to set goals and sell more of what they were selling, having them do their job to the best they could.
It was changing the course of some of these companies. The bottom line was going through the roof.
Listen to the conversation of people. Listen to what they're saying. And I'm going to tell you, it's so negative in most cases. You know what it is? It's an expression of the idea that's fixed in their mind. They're telling you why they can't do things. They're telling you why they're having problems. I'm having the worst time. I just don't seem to be able to get any leads. You know, I haven't got any listings. Don't give them any listings. That's just about the way it works.
Bob's professional life was taking off. His vision for success was finally becoming a reality. But behind the scenes, his personal life was unraveling. Yes, the business was growing, but the cost was becoming clear.
I think the challenges of Dad's initial rough go at life, and then the success of the cleaning business, and then moving family to Chicago, and then starting from scratch all over again, you know, that would test any marriage. But Dad had a vision of what he wanted to do, and he never, ever wavered from that vision.
So my parents, they divorced when I was 14 years old. You know, I remember that we stayed with Mom because Dad was on the road so much. He was working primarily in the United States. We were living in Toronto at the time.
He had such an ability to get through to them on such an emotional level and not just an intellectual one. Bob was the wheel. He was the printing press of self-development. And nobody has ever done what he did.
He believed in the ability of everyone in the audience to be extraordinary.
If I'm in a bad vibration and I walk into your place of business, Paul, and I put my hand out and I make a physical connection, I have affected his whole being.
I met Bob in 1979 in a seminar in Atlanta, Georgia. I was working for an insurance company, and Bob had been contracted with that company to increase sales. He had a real big reputation in the insurance industry.
At each company, Bob took a close look at how the sales teams thought and operated. Then he introduced two simple yet powerful ideas.
He said, my objective here is to change paradigms, to get you working differently. He asked everybody to make a commitment to do two things differently. Be in front of someone every morning at 9 o'clock, which nobody was. We were all in the office doing paperwork. And he said, ask everyone to buy $100,000 worth of insurance. And back in 1979, that was a pretty good amount of insurance. And so he said, you know, I know that if you do those two things, you'll have more sales during the day because you'll be out of the office, and it'll lead to much better results. And he said things will get much better from that point.
Understand this. If you want to change the direction you're moving in, you don't have to make a big change. You don't have to keep going in the direction you're going. You can just make the slightest little change, and you'll see your business, your life, your relationships change like night and day.
Well, eventually, you know, both parents started dating again. Dad was dating Linda. My mom was dating a fellow by the name of Randy. And Randy asked Mom to marry him. Mom gave Dad the opportunity. Did he want to come back and have us live with him for a while? And he basically jumped at it. He said, I would love to have the kids. And he said to Linda, I hope you'll come with me, but if you don't, I understand. And Linda was only 27 years old at the time. So I was 18, you can imagine. I had a sister, 16, and a brother, 14. And Linda jumped at it.
When Bob returned to Toronto, he was committed to being present for his family.
He had made a commitment to me and to the children that he would not travel anymore.
He thought this was his opportunity to really have time with us.
But the problem is he had no real business in Toronto at that time. And he had to start all over. I mean, I saw him go out and he wasn't groveling, but it was probably close to it.
Shifting his business focus from the U.S. to the Canadian market proved to be a major challenge.
I know he worked really hard and it was a tough slug, but that's what he was willing to do to be there for us.
I remember him doing meetings for like $10 a piece or something, you know, just anything he could to bring money in. There was nothing that was beneath him. He did whatever he had to do to pay the bills, and things were really, really tight because when I moved up here, although I continued in insurance, I had to get a new license for working here in Canada. So it took a while for me to start bringing in any money myself. It was really, really tough.
And what I got to witness was how he was willing to sacrifice his career, really, in a way, to provide for myself, Colleen, and Raymond.
I guess the best way to describe it is Dad was a rock, and you build a foundation and a home out of rock. Linda was Dad's mortar. She allowed the rock to do its job. She was the glue that held the family together, that held the rock up so it could do its job. Dad was able to focus on his goals, his objectives, because Linda assumed the responsibility of managing, looking after the money, paying the bills, deciding what was more important than the other.
Bob never complained. He never said anything about feeling sorry for himself. I felt sorry for him because I had seen him in a bigger stage where people really just admired him and looked up to him, and I saw him really struggling to get things going. But in retrospect, and this is the lesson, what I saw was that he shifted from working with corporations to working with individual people. And then he started developing programs. And then what I realized is when the internet got stronger, when social media came on the scene, when he was in the secret, if he hadn't made that shift from corporations to individuals, he probably wouldn't have been in a position to really capitalize on all of those things. So the shift, I think, was part of the grander plan. You know, Steve Jobs, it says you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can looking back. And as you connect the dots looking back, you can see that all of that made perfect sense in terms of positioning him to really take off and have the success that he ultimately did.
Think about what you're doing. Are you getting the most out of life? Are you really getting what you want? Well, if you would like to improve the quality of your life, and I can assure you that you can, and I also believe that you do, I think there's something inside of us that wants to express itself in a greater way. Well, these ideas are going to help.
You know, when I realized he was maybe not the typical father, it was probably when I was in high school.
Even though it was hard sharing him with the world and not having him around all the time, he was always there when it mattered. God knows how many times I'd see Dad up on the stage telling people, you gotta be willing to pay the price for what you want. And Dad exemplified that. He may not have been there for quantity of time, but my God, he knew how to be there for the quality of time.
Bob was never a traditional father or husband, but he was a loving and dedicated one. Success to Bob was not about fame or admiration from strangers. It was about being fully present for others, especially those closest to him.
When I look back on it, I think the first big lesson I got from him was around goal setting. You know, he was always a big goal setter. He was always inspiring us to be goal setters. When I turned 15, I'll never forget, I got this little box for my birthday, and I opened it up, and in the box was a toy car. And underneath the toy car was a note. Brian, for every $1 you save, when you turn 16, I'll match it, and you can use that money to buy a car. That, to me, was a big shift. That is when I really learned the value of goal setting. It set me off on a different course. I started to do things that I probably wouldn't have normally done. I started cutting lawns. I started shoveling driveways in the wintertime. I would do whatever it took to gain some extra dollars that I could put away to get that car. I got emotionally involved with it.
I know Dad often used my swimming as a story in the seminars when I was talking about quitting the swim team. You know, the reason I wanted to quit, I was good at it. I enjoyed the race, but I didn't love it. But Dad didn't focus on whether I should swim, whether I should pursue it or not. He was just more concerned about me developing the habit of quitting. So I didn't quit. That's the other side of the story. I didn't quit, and I persisted. I swam competitively in high school for 2 years, and those were the things Dad worked on with us, and it worked.
as Bob worked to expand his business, I mean, the expenses got greater. He always wanted to make sure that the employees were paid. He always wanted to make sure that he could pay the important items in the company. But the personal expenses suffered as a result because he put all of the emphasis on the company. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we mortgaged and remortgaged the house. There were times when the kids and I all had to rush checks for gas or for electricity or for all the utilities because we were just getting in before they turned everything off. Bob had his car repossessed.
We were in the office, I think it was a Friday afternoon, and Bob had gotten back from flying wherever he was. I heard this commotion outside. It was metal and mechanical kind of thing. And I thought, what is that? And I looked out the window, and it was a flatbed truck, and they were loading Bob's car onto the flatbed truck. And I thought, oh, this is not good. And I stood there for a moment, and I thought, I need to go tell him. So I went into his office, and I said, come here. And so he followed me to the office, and he looked outside, and he looked at me and said, isn't that interesting? He said, I don't even like that car. And I thought, I am going to be with this man for a long time because I want what he's got. Like, that was extraordinary to me. And at the time, I knew that funds weren't plentiful, but oddly enough, all the staff and salespeople were still being paid.
It always felt like we were always behind the eight ball, always, chasing the dollar and the bill being bigger than the dollar. And Dad, it felt like he was ignoring it. Looking back at it now, I see just the power of his ability to control what he was thinking about.
He could have very easily quit. There were a lot of times that he had the challenges or obstacles within the business, financially growing it. There were times where it would be easy to quit and move back to the States where he had a following, but he didn't.
Before The Secret, there was many times that he was doing extremely well. There was large audiences, but it was never consistent. There would be peaks and valleys. And the peaks were his rewards. He knew he was doing the right thing. In the valleys, I remember Dad always saying, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. He was so committed to it. He was so persistent. And he always held the vision that it was going to get better. And I think because of that, he just kept at it.
He always had faith that something good was going to happen. He never let go of that, and I think that's what sustained him through all of the times. I think the faith came from all the studying and reading that he did, that he had confidence in what he was reading and studying, that and believed that it had to work out, that something good had to come from all of the persistence and hard work that he was doing.
He wasn't ignoring the bills. He just wasn't focusing on them. He would talk about in his seminars the importance on focusing on your goal, focusing on your objective. And if you want to get out of debt, you got to focus on earning. You got to focus on the income. Because if you focus on the debt, you're going to keep staying in debt. He had faith that it was going to all work out, and he exemplified that.
Sacrifice is giving up something of a lower nature to receive something of a higher nature. I had to give up the poverty idea in my mind before I could ever attract any sort of money or any sort of wealth. So he said, decide what you're prepared to give up to get it. If you happen to be in sales, you're going to have to give up sitting around the office talking to the other people that you're selling with. You're going to have to give up watching television, possibly at home. You have to give up something to receive what you want. So he said, decide what you're prepared to give up to get it. And then he said, set your mind to it and get on with the work.
Bob faced the challenges and came up against the terror barrier again and again, and he continued to break through.
World-famous athletes, astronauts, international personalities who have really made a difference in our world. You and I, we all started out exactly the same. We were born rich. Rich in potential. We have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. You're about to embark on one of the most exciting journeys you could possibly get involved with.
I listened to that seminar over and over and over again. And, you know, I look back now, you know, now at age 62, everything that was promised and then some at that seminar has become reality.
Word was spreading. Bob had a gift for helping people change their lives, and demand for his teachings was coming from all directions, near and far.
Your real problem is you don't know why you're not doing what you already know how to do. But I do know, and I've proved it thousands of times to lives of people right around the world. At Prudential Insurance Company, I brought 100 employees into a seminar and gave them tools to break out of their comfort zones. I taught them how to use their thoughts to take control of their actions and achieve results they thought would be impossible. As a result, I delivered the same seminar to over 10,000 more Prudential employees, and I went on to teach it to over 10,000 Metropolitan Life employees as well, along with their families.
Bob had a rare gift, the ability to captivate an audience and make every person feel truly seen. It wasn't an illusion. They all mattered to him. Each person in the room felt as if Bob was speaking directly to them, because in his heart, he was.
The seminars downtown, they were packed. And it just kept getting better and better and better. And he would flit around that stage, and he was dressed to the nines, which he was most of his life.
He was such a professional at his craft. He was old school. He always wore a suit and tie.
What's your mind telling you? You want me to tell you what your mind's telling you? I'll tell you how to find out. Take a look at the results you're getting. Ask yourself what you're doing to change them. I know you're here today. Where are you going to be tomorrow? Are you going to be into the tapes? Are you going to be into the books? You see, this is why the right goal is so important. You've got to get something you really want.
Bob taught us all that. You've got to have goals, but you got to work. It just doesn't come to you on a platter. And unfortunately, there's a lot of us think it does. We just have to go out there and work and do our thing, and it's all going to happen. No, it's not all going to happen. There's a lot of extra things go into it. A lot of extra this, a lot of extra patience, perseverance, knockdowns, pull-ups. The biggest thing I learned from Bob, you've got to make a decision. You can't just go on flipping and flopping and no, not maybe. Is that what you want to do? Make the decision. It's so simple.
The only reason people do not improve the results that they get in their life is because they don't decide to. Now, you make a decision right now. I don't even care if you don't believe this will work. Try it anyway.
Bob never got to a point where he thought he had arrived. He continued to study all of his life. He continued to have a gold card. He had a gold card right up until he passed away. He got up every morning at 5 o'clock, and he would go to the studio, and he would write out his gratitude, just as he encouraged others to do. He would read, he would study. He kept his routine forever.
Imagine one of the greatest teachers was also one of the greatest students.
Bob, for many years, had had a book stand where he would keep a book, and the little arms would come up and hold the book on the open part of the book where it would hold those pages steady. Bob had seen that book stand in Earl Nightingale's office, the same kind of thing. Bob said to him, well, that's not very convenient for turning the pages. And Earl Nightingale said to him, I don't turn the pages. Bob said, what do you mean? How do you read a book if you don't turn the pages? And Earl Nightingale said to him, I don't turn that page until I'm actually living what that page says. So I got to study that until I'm actually living what that page says. And so Bob then took that on, and for all those years, he himself would have a book.
He was the best. There was nobody better than Bob Proctor. You know, he taught me about lifetime learning and the importance of that. Nothing stays the same. It's either getting better or getting worse, including us. And when things really took a quantum leap in my life as far as results was when I decided to be disciplined every single day.
My results began to change when I learned the value of study. It's one thing to be in an audience of someone and listen to them teach. It's another thing to watch it actually being lived every single day. Bob taught me by his example how critically important it was to study. He was so incredibly disciplined. Do you want to do better? Well, everybody wants to do better. How do we become better? How do we do better? If you don't avail yourself to study and discover people that have gone ahead of you,
He studied to a much greater extent than what he said he did. His sister described his study as intense, especially in the very beginning. She said that he was fanatical about his study and talking to people about what he was studying.
And the more he studied, the more he wanted to study. If it didn't kind of sink in, he'd go back and read the page over. Then
Bob was adamant that repetition was necessary for learning. I mean, that's how he learned. He read Think and Grow Rich over and over, and he didn't miss a day. It was something that was an absolute in his daily activity.
When I started to listen to this, the idea you could have whatever you want, that you've got these mental faculties if you start using them, you know, because you're God's highest form of creation. And I don't mean that from a religious perspective. I'm talking about from today, living today. I just never lost my fascination for it. I study it every day.
What Bob would teach as well is you would have to keep reading the books you do, and people would go to multiple seminars because you need repetition. You need to keep hearing it. It's human nature to go back to the negative. So you're really resetting your mind the way you think.
Bob started with no formal education, no influential connections, and no clear direction. What he did have was a burning desire to live an impactful life and the willingness to learn and act on what he learned. It's a simple formula, but a powerful one. And if you've ever felt stuck, maybe it's time to face the reality. It's not your circumstances that's holding you back. Maybe it's time to do what Bob would do. Get out of your mind and get into action.
Throughout history, all the great minds, all the great leaders, all the great achievers, they had something in common.
You know, this secret gives you everything you want. Happiness, health, and wealth.
This is the great secret of life.
So the secret hit in 2007. The demand for Bob went up exponentially.
Bob is now an international celebrity because millions and millions of people saw that movie. He didn't go into that movie to be the star. That stardom happened because of the clarity and the power of his teaching.
When The Secret came out, Bob was so excited, and it nearly didn't happen. They had tried to get in touch with him for a long time, and he happened to be in the same city when that was being recorded, and literally across the street, he was doing a seminar from where it was. So he just walked across the street and walked into the room and did the recording. In true Bob fashion, he talked to Rhonda Byrne. He wanted to do anything he could to help promote it, and he didn't know how big it was going to be, but he put everything he could rally with other speakers to help promote it. And of course, it was a huge success.
He was already famous before The Secret. Like everybody talks about, The Secret was his turning point. It was the elevator that took him to another level, but he was already on a level of his own.
Bob had known The Secret long before the film. He had been teaching its principles for years, but the movie became a turning point. It introduced Bob to a global audience, and people instantly resonated with his authenticity, his confidence, and the energy he brought to the message. He wasn't just delivering information. No, he was living it, and that made all the difference.
When he hit Larry King, we were driving to the show, and I was sitting beside him in the back, and I said, "Are you nervous?" He looked at me like, "With that?" And he said, "Confidence is not something I'm lacking." And I said, "I know that," but I said, "Aren't you nervous?" And he looked at me so seriously, and he said, "I have been waiting for this moment my whole life."
See, it's not just the law of attraction. People have to start to understand themselves. Most people don't understand themselves. Inscribed over the Ark of Apollo for the past 2,000 years are two words: know thyself. The average individual on the street thinks they're their name or they're their body. They don't know themselves. We go right through our educational system and learn very little about ourselves.
Bob, I thank you so much. It's always good seeing you.
The interesting thing that I found was that as hard as he worked and as successful as he was, he never made it really big until he was 72 years old. You want to talk about persistence. I mean, he'd been in the business for virtually 40 years, doing well, but never to the degree that he did after The Secret came out. He knew that his break would come. He didn't know how it was going to come, but he knew it was going to come because he studied every day.
At the bottom of the page is just an absolute magnificent quote. I've learned to love it from Thoreau. He said, if a person will advance confidently in the direction of their dream and just endeavor, all you have to do is try to live the life that you've imagined. You've got to live it, though. He says, you're going to meet with success unexpected in common hours. One day you're going to realize you're there. You got there. You reached the goal. The trip's over.
We were walking through a casino in Vegas, and this young kid jumped right in front of Bob and said, Mr. Proctor. And he says, it's Bob. He says, Mr. Proctor is my dad. He said, just call me Bob. He said, I saw you in The Secret and you changed my life. And Bob's like, what's your name? What are you doing? And we probably spent 15 minutes with that young kid. And that was the person he was.
After The Secret, things were going so fast. They were just trying to keep up. Social media was a gap. So I came in and started working with Bob on building those up.
As the digital landscape grew, Bob transitioned to online platforms, launching programs and making his insights accessible to anyone from anywhere.
Yeah, the mailing list was growing like crazy. Our seminars were filling up a lot faster than they ever had before. We were getting rooms for events that were twice the size, and it just kept growing. He started getting on stage in a few stadiums in South America. He was getting known all around the world, and it just opened him up to a whole new audience that he had not been in front of before.
This is what he had dreamed of. These are the people sharing his message all over the world in different languages, different cultures.
What made Bob truly remarkable was his ability to help others believe in their own potential, their own dreams, and their ability to achieve them. He ignited a sense of possibility in others, helping them see that success wasn't just for a select few. It was within reach for them too.
He lived what he taught every single day. I remember Bob talking oftentimes about helping someone earn $1 million. And he had a favorite phrase that he used all the time. He said, make $1 million look small.
So when I met Bob, he told me, wow, it's amazing you've been able to build this empire. He's like, but let me tell you something, Jenna. Don't you ever stop studying. I don't care if you reach the top of everything. He said, you're never done growing. And that really stood out to me because as somebody that has earned $1 million a month, I thought at one point in my life, I'm done. I'm finished. I got there. I'm done. I'm at the top of the mountain. And he was the first one to say, you're absolutely not. That's a paradigm now, and get out of that. So he really taught me to make it a priority in my own life, to continue to study, and that I'm never finished. There's always a new goal to be set.
Because for us to get something greater than what we now have, we're going to have to grow. We have to become a more effective individual.
The best investment that anyone can make is investing in themselves, investing in their study, investing in our own individual improvement.
For Bob, this was never just a business. It was his purpose. Helping people thrive wasn't a side effect of his work. It was the reason he did it. Sharing what he had learned was his way of giving back and fulfilling the mission that lit him up every single day.
The greatest lesson I ever learned from him is that you decide what you would love, but understand you don't have to know how you're going to get there.
He knew the magic was always in helping someone be able to state clearly what it was they wanted, to express that desire, to make a decision, and then have the discipline to be able to follow through.
Bob had such an incredible way of inspiring you to think bigger. And as soon as he got you to think bigger, he'd get you to work for it faster.
I think it takes a big influence, a mentor, somebody you believe in, somebody to believe in you. It's very hard for us to make our own moves. Bob Proctor was that influence on me that I went, if Bob says I should do it, I gotta go. And my career started to skyrocket and I became a global phenomenon, and everything happened because of the things that Bob had taught me.
I created a vision board, things I wanted in my house, a walk-in closet, a kitchen, a vacation home in Florida. I remember putting private jets on there, and when I looked at the price of private jets, my God, it scared me, but I still put them on there. Within 2 or 3 years, everything on that board actually happened, and I easily could afford it. None of us could see the how, but it's a human nature to think about how am I gonna do this. Most of us don't allow it through negativity, doubt, fear. Bob always used to say, if you knew how the hell to do it, you'd be doing it.
I think the biggest takeaway from Bob's seminars and working with him was learning how to master your emotions. Because if you can master your emotions, you can conquer the frequency that you're on.
Bob had an amazing ability to ask you one question that would change everything. And he did that for me many years ago. He asked me about all the things that I was doing, and I'm listing them all off for him. And he said, well, I just have one question for you. Which one of all of these things could help you live the way that you really want to live? In that moment, that one question created such clarity for me. I suddenly knew what I needed to do.
You know, there's a lot of motivators out there, but there's not a lot of educators, and he educated people.
Bob's message was simple, but life-changing. You are not bound by your past or by the outcome you think is set in stone. He believed with every fiber of his being that you can reshape your future by reshaping your thinking. And he didn't just teach it, he lived it. His life was the proof. That was the truth he wanted everyone to get. If he could do it, so can you.
I was diagnosed with metastatic cancer, and it was stage 3. I decided to have an afternoon pity party. My phone rang, and it's Bob Proctor. I hesitated for a moment because I'm thinking, do I answer? Because I was feeling anything but aligned at this point. And I started crying, and he's like, what's going on? And he was, kind-hearted, but not willing to let you wallow in any kind of self-pity. Like, I'll have none of that kind of thing. And so he said, what are you doing? I said, I was laying down. He goes, get up right now. He said, go into your office right now. And he goes, write this down. I am so happy and so grateful that every cell of my body vibrates in perfect harmony, with who I am. And I was like, okay. And he goes, I want you to not just say it, you got to know it. And that was, 4 years ago now. And said to Bob before, you saved my life twice. I was suicidal when I met you, and then when getting that diagnosis. But he would never take credit. Never take credit for anyone else's success.
Bob was always lifting everyone up. He stayed willing and eager to mentor and support others for the rest of his life. And he inspired them to live a life that will outlive them. He was not just a messenger, he was the message.
I'd had a situation where there had been embezzlement in the church and we had lost everything, and it was to the tune of $10 million. And I mean, at this point now, I had no job, I had no income, and Bob said, the infinite doesn't know any difference between $1 and $100 million. You think it's something, but he said, I'll show you how to think differently about this.
Every time I've set my mind to do anything and followed his guidance, I have grown and I have strengthened. It's brought out a greater and a grander version of who I am, which is what we should all do, is bring out the greater and the grander version of who we all are.
Gratitude is the foundation of everything that Bob teaches, the importance of beginning your day, every day, being grateful for what you have.
His profound gratitude for his own life and his visible joy for the success of others was contagious.
I think when he passed, he was ready to go because I think he felt that he had experienced the trip, he had benefited from the trip, and even though there were a lot of highs and lows, he would talk about the lows and be grateful for them, but he was really grateful for the success that he finally got to experience. And I'm gonna cry.
Bob had faced his share of setbacks. He was knocked down more times than he could count. But what we can learn from him is not to dwell on the failures, but rather to focus on inevitable success. He knew that focusing on the negative would only disrupt the energy he needed to reach his goals. So he was deliberate about guarding his thoughts and carefully choosing what he allowed into his mind.
You see, I know that anybody can do it. If I could do it, anybody can do it.
When he said, if I could do it, you can do it, from the bottom of his heart, he meant it. The audience, they heard it, but they didn't understand it. It's because he was so good at applying the information that he wasn't letting them see the other side of the coin. So when he taught, that was the one piece that was missing in his seminar, really relaying to people that his life was not easy. He had debts. He had bills to pay that he couldn't pay. He had bad habits that he had to get beyond. But he couldn't tell them about it because then he'd be focusing on it. And it was, oddly, his greatest strength. We wouldn't speak of it because we felt we would be doing wrong by him by doing that. And it kind of, even speaking right now, I feel like I'm being a little unfaithful by sharing that. But the whole purpose of what we're wanting to share is his legacy. We can't teach what he was teaching. None of us have studied near as much as he has, but we watched him apply it. And I think the only way we can carry on his legacy is to give a little bit of that insight that he couldn't. And if people really knew how challenging life was for him to get there, they would understand when he said, if you're willing to pay the price, if your goal, if you really want it bad enough, you got to be willing to pay the price. Dad's lessons are here. They're not going anywhere. He has left a legacy. And Linda's continuing on with her purpose of being the mortar to continue Dad's vision of helping as many people as he can.
Bob found out that in June of 2021, he was going to be operated on in September. He was on camera most of that time, up until December. Then he was so exhausted. While he was on camera, you hardly ever noticed that he didn't feel well. But when he did get up, he would sit at the table and he would try to work on his goals. He would try to read. I mean, he really kept pushing forward, even though he really wasn't very healthy. He was still studying. I mean, he had his gold card on the table that he would look at, and he was still working and trying to move forward.
My last visit with him was in December, before the February when he passed. And here he is, 87 years old. His body is having all kinds of complaints. But he himself was as young and vibrant in his spirit as I had ever known him even 30 years ago.
And about a week after he was released from the hospital, he went back in with sepsis. The doctor that saw me said he's got sepsis, and she said, I don't know how long he's got to live. She said, regardless, this is going to take his life. She said he is not going to recover from where he is. And so I called the kids, and they came back to Toronto. We all took turns going to the hospital and being with him.
I was in the hospital with him for hours upon hours. We would just hold hands and talk. So I went to give him a hug goodbye, and Dad gave me a kiss on the lips. I mean, I was probably a kid the last time I kissed him on the lips. Wow, it was such a powerful moment. I will never forget it. That was just his way of making sure I knew how loved I was.
I remember you calling me and saying I could feel this magnetic exchange of energy. I mean, he was not doing well, but he was still so powerful.
The end was imminent, and he wanted to come home. And so on a Monday, he came home. All the kids and grandkids were able to see him, which they wouldn't have been if he'd stayed in the hospital. Some close friends came and said their goodbyes. And Thursday night, he passed away.
Saying goodbye to Dad was exactly what he said life was. It had its opposites. Has its good, it has its bad. Saying goodbye to Dad was beautiful, and it was awful. I think of how many people lose somebody without the chance to say goodbye, and how awful that's got to be for people. We were fortunate we had the chance to say goodbye.
I think of the people that he's impacted and what they've done with their lives. It's not going to stop with them. It's going to go to their children, to their families, and I hope that that generation will take it to the next generation, and he'll always be a household name, which he will never be forgotten. He will never be forgotten. And he's helped so many countless lives, and he will continue to for generations to come. So, he's Bob Proctor to the world. But he's dad to me.
And I said, I'd just like to do something on a plaque that would tell him just how big he's been in our life. If you'd not stepped out and bet on yourself over 50 years ago, neither of us nor our families would ever have enjoyed the successful and happy lifestyle that we do today. We want to thank you for instigating a wonderful change in all our lives. Most people have only dreamt about the good life. We are living it. Thanks, Bob. Love from Helen and Al.
I think he'd want to be remembered as someone who cared deeply about people. Every single person he met, he saw the divinity in them, the wonder in them, and he would want to be remembered as someone who invested his life in helping each of our lives become better.
He lived his life on a stage, and he was walking off the stage, thrilled that he lived the life he wanted to live. My God, if you could leave this world just overflowing with love and appreciation, you nailed it. And he did. He accomplished what he set out to accomplish, and that's probably why he's gone. He didn't have anything more he had to do. He did it.
The biggest lesson I learned from Bob Proctor's teachings is to go for it in life, to set big goals, to dream, to work at it every single day, to put everything into it. Anything else is less than what we deserve.
His light, his lessons, his joy, and his generosity are a legacy of increase that will never cease to resonate.
For Bob, it didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter if you were a relative or friend or if he knew you at all. If you needed help, if you needed assistance in whatever. And it wasn't always money that he gave. I mean, he gave his time. He would help. He really was a true giver. There was no end to what he would do or how he would help. And he had no limits, no limit at all. I mean, I've never known another person like that.
If you don't give it away, you're not going to be happy. Money is used to extend the good you do far beyond your own presence. And there's all kinds of ways you can help people with money. And that's the only way you can help some people.
I think Bob lived like that, and he would do anything. He was the most generous man I've ever known. The things I watched him do and the thoughtfulness, the caring was unlike anything I've ever observed in my life. That says a lot about that person, but his impact, not done yet, not my opinion.
Bob's ripple effect has only really just begun. I really feel like he was way ahead of his time. Honestly, he was talking about things that probably not many people understood at the time. Now you see law of attraction and law of vibration, and it's almost common knowledge now. Even through social media, people are talking about this, and he was really a pioneer of that.
Well, it can't be measured. A ripple effect is something that continues on and on and on.
When Bob started out, he was where you are right now. And in fact, I can probably guarantee that you're probably several steps ahead of him because he didn't have anything. He didn't have money. He had a desire. He had a burning desire. And if you can find something that you really want for yourself, you will do what you need to do to see the fulfillment of that dream. But you first have to make a decision.
You can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. You can have anything you want to have. There is boldness, there's genius, there's greatness locked up within you.
When the time comes to pass on your torch, will your flame continue to burn? Will your story inspire, ignite, and endure like Bob's?
Bob's legacy isn't in the past. It's right here, in you, in me, in all of us who choose to live by the lessons he taught and the example he set. Bob taught us how to dream bigger, think better, and treat people with love, respect, and kindness. He lived what he taught, and now it's up to us to carry that forward. So if you ever wonder, what now? The answer is simple. We study, we grow, we help others do the same. That's how Bob's legacy lives on. And I'm so grateful that we get to walk this path together.
Bob Proctor didn't just leave behind his teachings. He left a mission, a movement, to wake up our own potential, to challenge the limits we've accepted. He showed us that lasting change begins in the mind, and that anyone from anywhere can build a life filled with purpose, abundance, and freedom. He handed us the tools, the truth, the torch, and now it is up to us to carry it forward and light the path for generations yet unborn. He lit the path. Now you carry the flame.
Roosevelt said, only those are fit to live who do not fear to die. And none are fit to die who have shrunk from the joy of life. Both life and death are parts of the same great adventure. All of us who provide service and stand ready for sacrifice are the torchbearers. We run with the torches until we fall, content if we can pass them to the hands of the other runners. If you want to experience real joy in your life, you follow the advice in that quote. Be a torchbearer. Pass on something good. Give up something so you can, and you'll always get more back so you can pass on more of something good. But you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, why can't I want to change something? When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now. Everything that has happened right up to this moment in your life has been absolutely essential to make you the person you are, to prepare you to do whatever it is you're going to do. I'm of the opinion that we never really know what we're preparing ourselves for. But if we're using the right ideas, we can be absolutely certain it's something great.
Can one man's legacy actually alter the trajectory of millions of lives, including yours?
If your way is not giving you the results you want, I would suggest that you take a real serious look at these ideas.
My dear friend Linda Proctor and I and a number of other friends have been working on something that's been very meaningful and very important to us for a lot of years, and that's the teachings of our great mentor and friend, Bob Proctor.
If you use this information that he taught, if you study it, if you follow what he did, if you implement it just as he did, you will grow just as he did.
You see, I know that anybody can do it. If I could do it, anybody can do it.
When Bob passed, the outpouring of love from around the world was overwhelming. The messages, the stories, the tributes, they came in by the thousands, and people weren't just saying they missed Bob. They were saying they missed studying with him. They missed the community he created. They missed the feeling of possibility that always came alive when Bob spoke. And to be honest, I felt the same way. Even though I had lived beside him, even though I heard him speak these truths every single day, when he was gone, I felt it too. That same urge that so many people shared with me. I need to go back to studying. I need to go deeper. And I need to take this work more seriously. That collective feeling shared by thousands of people around the world, sparked something new.
Dad's lessons are here. They're not going anywhere. He has left a legacy. Before Dad passed, he told us he wanted to create something new, a year-long journey that would show people the exact steps he took to change his life. He didn't get the chance to build it, so we did. We've taken his lessons, his life's work, and woven them into something powerful, a blueprint, a guided study, led by the people who knew him best, the ones who walked beside him, the ones who saw not just what he taught, but what he lived through, the challenges he faced, and how he overcame them. That's the part he never talked about, and it's the part we believe will change everything for you.
What dream have you buried that's still whispering your name?
You think you're going to do better without studying? You got to bring more of you to the party. If you want to get more, you got to be more. The only way you're going to get more is to bring more of you to the party. There's an infinite source within you. Bring it to the surface, for God's sake. Make up your mind you're going to do it and do it right. Don't go back next week working the way you worked last week. You're not going to get any more for it than you got for last week. This is not rocket science. This is something a guy with 2 months high school can understand. And there are millions doing it.
I think that if you really want the results Bob had, you have to do exactly what he did.
Introducing Bob Proctor's Blueprint, your foundation for success, a 12-month journey, 36 immersive lessons, all built to help you unlock the life Bob knew you were capable of. If you're ready to grow, the path is right here.
What if the secret to success wasn't a secret at all, but a decision?
The universe is just waiting for your unfoldment. It's saying, what do you want? But if you don't make a decision that you want something more for your life, you'll never have anything more. Some people live their whole lives and they don't know that they can do better than they're already doing. If you really want to make a change in your life, you have to make a change in your life. So you have to do things differently.
Now, if you're going to change, you know there's only one time to do it. Right now.
What do you believe you're capable of? And what if that belief is too small?
You're about to embark on an exciting, exhilarating journey, one that will connect you with a group of incredible people, proven systems, and practical lessons that can absolutely help you reach your goals, whether they're small, medium, or even massive.
This isn't just another personal development course. This is a transformational journey.
This is the course that Bob never really had the time to teach in full, but always wanted to.
This series of lessons is designed to expand your thinking, your results, and your world in ways you may not have even considered possible.
This subscription series brings together 6 decades of Bob's teachings. It has been created with deep care and intention by the people who knew him best, and it's designed to help you create real, lasting change.
This course puts all the pieces together for you.
Together, we've created this program to continue Bob's mission in a way that's deeply personal, practical, and powerful to each of us, and I know will be to you as well.
You're going to be a part of a thriving community of like-minded people.
Supported by a structure and guided by timeless principles that work.
The same guide rails that Ray provided for Bob, we're going to provide for you.
Everything in this program is something we custom designed to give you insights about and from Bob to help you grow, succeed, and live a life that you may never have imagined possible.
The life you really want is within your reach, and all you have to do is make a decision.
Now it's your turn. So that's our team. Each of us transformed by Bob, and all of us committed to helping you step into your next level. Welcome to your blueprint for success. Your transformation starts now.
If you're not getting the results you want, your way obviously isn't working. Why don't you try ours? Don't put it on, do it. Don't wait till tomorrow, next week, next month, 5 years from now, waste all that time. You do it before you go to bed today. And what I'm talking about is moving your mind into a higher vibration, developing a higher consciousness, and you can literally attract all the good that you want.